Okay, so here we go. Let's buckle in for just a moment. Buckle in for just a moment. Because the Dallas Cowboys did something shocking yesterday, okay? I didn't know that this was something that they did, but given the reaction today, it's unprecedented. We've never seen it before. The Dallas Cowboys lost a football game yesterday afternoon. Let's freak out! Oh my God, what are we going to do? Okay, I think Dallas is done. Got to move on from Dak. Parsons is terrible now. Diggs is apparently the best defensive player in the league. They missed him, and McCarthy can't coach. What are we going to do? Shockingly, I have to once again be the voice of reason regarding the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott in particular, but the context to those who didn't watch the football game, the Cowboys lost to the Arizona Cardinals 28-16. And before I even get to Dallas, because I really do want to make a point of this, hats off to Joshua Dobbs. I'm a Vols fan, lifelong. Y'all know that. Listen, my mother's been a bigger Dobbs fan than I've been. I was critical at times back in his days at Tennessee, but obviously I've ended up seeing the light, and she was always a Dobbs fan. But Joshua Dobbs, the guy, you saw his numbers yesterday, very efficient, 17 for 21, $189, a touchdown, a nice pass, by the way, in the fourth quarter. QBR 0 to 100 of 84 and a pass rating of 120. I don't care what anybody says. That's a starting quarterback in the NFL. Not talking about this performance. I'm talking about this player. Given what he showed last year with some really bad circumstances, given the injuries that the Titans suffered at the end of the year, having to start for him, and almost won them the division against the Jaguars. And then this year, had him get in the game against Washington, who's better, had a 20-point lead on the New York Giants, who I believe to be better today. And then yesterday beat one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NFL, and a perennial pick, or a consistent pick by most in the media to be a Super Bowl contender. That's what the Arizona Cardinals did, and that is what my man Joshua Space Dobbs did. Space is not his middle name, but I call him Space Dobbs because he is probably the smartest quarterback in the NFL because he is an aerospace engineer major at Tennessee. So Josh is a pretty smart dude. Josh, so very, very happy for Joshua Dobbs as a guy who still roots for Dak. So I'm therefore going to root for the Cowboys to win. It did my heart good to see what Joshua Dobbs did yesterday because I think he is absolutely today one of the 32 best in the NFL. Take him over Justin Fields. I take him over Mac Jones, Zach Wilson. Looks great. So hats off to Joshua Dobbs. Don't think the Cardinals are going to build around him. They still think they're going to draft a quarterback, but somebody's going to pick this man up. And I'm not saying he's going to be a franchise guy, but he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. So shout out to my man Josh Dobbs. Now to Dallas. So again, as I mentioned, it is media panic day. It is by most fans outside of my buddies at the Cowboys Can Fan podcast. Shout out to my man or to my guys Alex, AJ, and Anth. Who I'm sure weren't too pleased with what happened yesterday at State Farm Stadium. There's no big deal. It's not. Okay, Dallas isn't going to go 17-0. That's my biggest takeaway from this. As far as actual concerns, I'll get to that in just a moment. But it is. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it in terms of how Dak Prescott is covered. So remember last week, Dak played awesome against an awesome defense, and it was back page news for all I saw. And Dak had one bad pass last week. It should have been a pick six by Sauce Gardner, and that was what everybody talked about all week. Should have thrown a pick six though. Should have thrown a pick six. It's like, well, yeah, not every pass can be perfect. He's not God, okay? Even Patrick Mahomes was a bad pass every once in a while. He had a couple yesterday, like, ugh. Throws a pick yesterday. Now I talked about last year how some picks were, most of the picks were on the receivers last year, be it they didn't cross the face of a safety, be it they dropped a pass, be it they ran the wrong route. And then the rest were, of course, on Ray Dakota Prescott. Yesterday, that pick, 1,000% on Dak. Now, I don't think he saw, if you look at the on-field angle behind Dak, I honest to God don't think he saw the linebacker, which is still on him, but albeit that's what happened. But again, I'm not, given the fact that Dak was missing 3 starting offensive linemen, by the way, probably the Cowboys' 3 best linemen, Tyron Smith, Tyler Biadasz, and Zach Martin, who's a future first ballot Hall of Famer, as is Tyron Smith, but Zach Martin's closer to his prime. Given what Dallas did offensively, I don't see any reason to be concerned. They ran for 185 yards. Dak went up and down the field. Completion percentage is solid. The problem was, of course, the goal line pick. And the problem to me for Dallas, because the red zone offense has been a topic of conversation today. If you look at the numbers, the Cowboys are, let me pull this up if I have it. Yeah, Dallas is fourth worst in the NFL. Fourth worst, tied with the New York Jets and the New Orleans Saints for worst red zone defense in football this season at only 40% scoring touchdowns. Only the Texans, Titans, and Buccaneers are worse in that department. So obviously Dallas needs to improve that. But they marched up and down the field. And again, it's the play calling by McCarthy was very, very odd. So remember a couple weeks ago, they beat the New York Giants 40-0. The defense plays out of its mind. And Dak doesn't have that impressive of a statistical performance. And I came out the next day, I said, if I'm Mike McCarthy, why do I need Dak to have a crazy statistical performance? My defense is scoring touchdowns. My special teams is blocking kicks and returning them, for touchdowns as well. Why would I be aggressive given that we've got the lead? They have no momentum. Just have Dak make easy throws, get him in a rhythm. I mean, Dak actually had a couple of drops in that game. Just no need to go nuts. Last week, different game plan was more aggressive in the passing game. This was a weird one. Like a really weird game plan. So, Dallas took, if I'm doing the math, okay, in this football game, Dak took 4 shots more than 20 yards down the field. Now, Dak, if you look at, certainly in 2021 was the case, and I think in 2022, even as down season, he was good in this department. Dak has historically been one of the best deep passers in the NFL in terms of completion percentage, passer rating, touchdowns, the whole bit. That's his strength. Why isn't McCarthy playing to it when you're down and your defense is struggling? That's what I'm confused about. Now, they did run the football effectively. Props to him. Tony Pollard had a big-time performance, but I'm just trying to figure out why. With you got Brandon Cooks back in the lineup, CeeDee Lamb, you saw him multiple times on the sideline, very frustrated. He's like, man, why am I not getting the ball? Understandably so. You've got Michael Gallup is a good deep target, and they did target him a bit down the field. But again, only 20 passes more than 20 yards down the field. That's not a Dak thing. That's a game plan thing. Now, I'm not here to say McCarthy's a bad play caller because through the first 2 weeks we have no evidence to say that. I think we have more evidence to say he's a good play caller than a bad one. But that's something that can be corrected for Dallas. Taking more shots down the field, being more aggressive. I saw Dak had the quote after the game. What did he say? You, referencing the media, put us on a pedestal. You put us up with the best, and you got what you wanted. Essentially saying, and again, a lot of people criticize Dak for that. I was fine with it because to me, that's saying, you put us up on the mountaintop so you could tear us down. Like that's kind of how I interpreted that from Dak. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I interpreted, what Dak Prescott said there. But there's no reason to believe that Dallas is just going to be a mess from here on out. Yes, they missed Trayvon Diggs. They still have a heck of a secondary. Did Micah Parsons virtually disappear outside of one play yesterday? Yes. That's kind of been a concern of mine, of Micah. That's why I believe TJ Watt is the best defensive player in football until proven otherwise. More on the Steelers later. But Dallas will bounce back defensively next week. They play a bad offense and a bad quarterback and a below-average offensive coordinator next week against the Patriots. They'll be fine. They'll bounce back, get a W. And San Francisco is the kind of test yourself game. But how many Super Bowl champions have we seen in the past lose games where you're like, huh? Remember Kansas City lost to Indianapolis last year? We're like, Kansas City lost to the Colts? The Colts who ended up winning 4 games that year, and old Matt Ryan, and a couple of years before that, you had Tom Brady losing to the Chicago Bears, the Bucs losing to the Bears when Tom Brady held up the 4 fingers as that meme became famous for. Like, hey, what, is it 4th down? I still think Brady might have been concussed in that game, but that's another story. We have all the time. I remember, was it 2019 when Kansas City got beat by, I forget who it was. They lost the game they should not have lost. It's slipping my mind. Kansas City lost the Colts in 20. Yeah, I think it was 2019 they lost the Colts in blowout fashion at home on Sunday Night Football, went on to win the Super Bowl. So every team, every year, has a confusing loss. We're kind of scratching our heads like, how did that happen? It happens. It's as normal as anything in the NFL. And Dallas, we understand the coverage surrounding them. It's the same as it is with the LA Lakers and with the New York Yankees, and certainly with certain athletes like LeBron James or Tom Brady, for example, that there's a certain level of scrutiny when you're playing bad, and there's a certain level of praise you get when you're playing well. And listen, I'd say a big chunk of that locker room kind of bought into that. Dak said after the game it was a very humbling loss. And so, listen, they'll be extra keyed in practice. They'll be ready to go against the Patriots. I have absolutely no worries whatsoever about the Dallas Cowboys. I still think they could beat Philadelphia in the playoffs, which I predicted them to do. I still think they could beat Detroit. I think they can beat San Francisco, although I think San Francisco's a better team today. But I didn't. When I was watching that game, my takeaway was, or wasn't, oh yeah, that's who Dak Prescott is. Yeah, and by the way, Dak wasn't even bad, but that's who Dak is. Dak's a bum. It seemed like Dak is always never gets credit for the wins, always gets blamed for the losses. Isn't that funny how that goes? Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.